All right, I think we're recording. Welcome to Spotlight on Arts with a Mission. This is a 45-minute Zoom call that we're having with Marlene Dickson, who is the founder and director of not only Arts with a Mission, but ARTrageous. And I'm really looking forward to this Zoom call as people are still checking in. Marlene has been in YWAM since 1984, and she founded the School of Performing Arts in 1994. And a little bit about Marlene's background. You can see it in the bio that I sent out, but she's the chapter direct. She was the chapter director. I don't think currently. She was the chapter director of the Hollywood Prayer Network. She's an adjunct dance instructor at Tyler Junior College. She's the theater director and educational coordinator at Tyler Civic Theater Acting Conservatory, and she serves on the board of director for Shine, and she is also on our YWAM North American Cities Servant Circle as an arts advisor to our city leaders in North America. And so I've had the privilege of being in many meetings with Marlene and just seeing the wisdom that she brings to our table. So my name is Tim Swoboda. I'm in San Francisco and really glad to have you guys here. I try to do this call every 45 days to 2 months or whatever I can, depending on my schedule and all the other things that I'm trying to juggle. And like I said at the beginning, if you want to go back and look at some of the ones, this is our fifth one. It's on my YouTube channel, Tim Swoboda, on Spotlight on YWAM City. So this is a 45-minute call, and I do my best to keep it to 45 minutes. We're going to interview Marlene here for about 30 minutes and then open it up for questions. So be writing your questions down or put them in the chat as we're talking, and Marlene will be watching the chat, I hope, and she will try to answer them. I'll try to watch it too. I don't have my social media person here with me anymore, so I'm trying to juggle everything as I do it. But yeah, let's get started. So Marlene, you joined YWAM in 1984, and what was it, Marlene, that drew you to combine faith with the arts? And tell us a little bit about your journey.
Okay. Well, first, just thank you so much for everybody hopping on for these 45 minutes. My goal and my hope is just I know that artists that don't see their place, whether that's in ministry or, to be honest, in the world. You look at depression, things like just not feeling isolated or not feeling like belonging. Those are attributes that are very connected to artists. And so my hope is not only to share my story, but to hopefully plant something in each one of you that would cause you to be able to have a heart and have a vision to identify artists all around you. So that's my hope in these 45 minutes. But the way I got involved, actually, I'll start with how I got involved with YWAM. I was 2 months away from going to nursing school, and I met a summer of service team coming through my hometown. I grew up in the Chicagoland area. And so I was going to leave on June 5th, and it was just a week before that this team was coming through. And the lady who was hosting the team had kept telling me about her son who was in YWAM. And I thought she was trying to set me up with her son. So I paid no attention to what she had to say. And then she said, "Hey, this team is coming through and I need help cooking a meal for them." And being a number 2 Enneagram helper, I said, "I'd love to come and help out." And so I came and I helped cook. And that was the first time that I saw people who were as in love with Jesus as I was. And it happened to be a Toy Maker and Son team. And Toy Maker and Son was a 55-minute allegory of the gospel that was done all through dramatic presentation. And so I decided, instead of leaving right away for Florida to go to nursing school, since I was 2 months early, I would instead join the summer of service team. And that was the first time after a performing arts production, after the very first time that we performed, there was a man who was about my father's age with tears streaming down his face. And he said, "What do I need to do to know Jesus?"
Wow.
And that's how I got hooked.
Wow, that is absolutely beautiful. If you haven't put it in the chat where you're from, please do that. We'd love to know where everybody's from. There's people coming in from all over. I see from Dallas, Romania, and I think even from India is on the line here. So it's great to have everyone that's here. Marlene, your family background is from Cuba,
Yeah.
Political refugee. Is that correct?
That's right.
How has that influenced and shaped your heart for displaced people, and how have you used the arts in communicating that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think even just tagging on to that, I wanted to be a nurse because I wanted to bring healing. And I think that when you are a refugee, when you are a displaced person, you've seen a lot of suffering. And so that in my mind was a way to kind of handle or to be able to contribute to healing. And so when I then ended up joining YWAM instead of going to nursing school, I kept being put to work with these performing arts teams because I had background in performing arts. And I remember one time I was teaching a doctor a drama. He was going to go to do missions in Africa, and why they had a doctor doing a drama instead of a medical outreach. That's a different Zoom call. But anyhow, so I told him, okay, walk across the stage. And I turned around and he was frozen and he couldn't move. And I thought, if I could have just worked with him when he was 3 years old, he'd be confident in his skin. And I felt the Lord say, well, why don't you? And I'm like, well, because I'm going to be a missionary in another country. I'm not going to be in America. And God said, well, when you go, give what you got. And while you're here, give what you have. And so I started working with all the teams doing missions, doing arts training. And in that, my heart was still for healing, either nurse, like I mentioned. And I think that came from that heart of just my family going through the political refugees from Cuba and understanding that it's a healing that needs to take place in their heart. And so it was 7 years as a missionary before I really accepted being a missionary through the arts. And I have a call. Can you guys still hear me? Because there's a call coming through.
You can still hear you.
Okay, I'll ignore the call then. And so for me, it was actually what happened to my son. This is the best way to explain it. The transition from healing being a physical healing to healing being a spiritual healing. I was on my way to teach in a DTS one morning, and my son tripped and fell into the wood stove, and caught his hand and burnt his arm. And so I was trying to put his arm into a bucket of cold water and just trying to alleviate the pain. But he, a 3-year-old, was holding on to his arm and protecting himself, as we do when we're in pain, as a refugee does, as someone who's displaced, as someone who has to protect themselves because no one else is protecting them because they're in so much pain. And so I was trying to get his arm down. And finally, I couldn't get his arm down into the water. And finally, his arm released and it went down into the water. And I was like, what happened? Why did he stop protecting himself so that I could bring healing? And I followed his gaze. And I don't know how many parents are out there and remember the TV show Barney. Anybody remember Barney from back in the day? So what happened was my son started watching the TV show Barney. And it was on mute, but the TV was still on. And it was in that moment that I realized that the arts, like that Barney, allowed him to escape his pain that he was protecting himself from and allowed healing to come. And so that was, for me personally, a moment in my life where I saw the arts be able to remove the intense pain from someone to allow them to receive healing. And it's the same whether you're a refugee that is suffering from, displacement, suffering from not being able to understand. My parents came here. My mom was 18 years old, only spoke Spanish, and then to come to a country that only spoke, where we grew up, English. And there was a lot of suffering, and and yet my life, because of the way that Americans really surrounded us and created a place for us, dance became my venue to be able to, that's when I was heard, was when I danced. When my body moved, that's where I found my voice, especially with tap dance. So that's where I found my voice. And if that can happen for a little girl taking dance class, I was 9 months old when we came to the States, and the dance that I started taking, let's say I was 7 years old, it made such a difference in me that I can make a difference now in the world. That for itself, art has value in itself. But for me, it's the connection of art and healing.
That is beautiful. I think it was Martin Luther who said the poor need art just as much as they need bread, for they suffer in ugliness.
Right.
And there's something about art that is just absolutely healing to the soul.
Feeds the soul. Yeah. So I started calling it theater of the soul.
Theater, I love that. I love that. I love that. Theater of the soul. So as you guys are listening to Marlene start forming questions, great to see people coming in from Africa. I see Amy Holton there coming in from Accra, and Andy Holton also coming in. Great to see everybody coming in. You can put questions in the chat, and I'll be watching. I've got my chat on, and so I'll be trying to get those into Marlene as we do it. So also, Marlene, you've created not just Arts with a Mission, I just put it in the chat, but you also created ARTrageous Studios. And I believe you're training like 300 people a week in your studio, which is really a unique model of mission, business as mission, and being a great studio. How do you see the, continue on that same vein, how do you see the arts playing a unique role in Christian outreach? And we address some of the healing also. But, tell us some more about your ARTrageous Studio.
Okay. Well, let's see. Where do I begin? I think that honestly, the first thing that comes to mind, just off the top of my mind, is what we miss so easily in every point of ministry, and that is just human connection. So what I've heard over and over again from the families whose kids either come and take, because we do theater and dance both, is that the culture that's created at the studio. And so a lot of times, especially for most of the people on this call, you're already a missionary. And sometimes we forget it's the normal things in life that allow us to create the connections with people where they're feeling open and vulnerable. So such as a dance studio, a theater studio, when kids can come into that, when adults can come into that, and it's not a church setting, and yet they meet the Spirit of God in that place. They meet true kindness is what they meet, or creativity. And sometimes, and I say that creativity because creativity is not always fun. Creativity is bigger than we are. So it's like putting on an ill-fitting suit that you have to grow into. And so sometimes that makes you feel insecure. So challenging them, but at the same time, nurturing them. So that's how I've seen our greatest strength is. And what I've heard from the community, that our greatest strength really has been creating a culture where people can not only sense God's presence, but actually act it out and dance it out.
Well, that's beautiful. That's really good. So I hope some of you are getting some insights on this and getting some questions ready for Marlene. Marlene, what are some of the, as you're training people, what are some of the values that you're trying to instill into people? and as you're training them? And could you also just share maybe a short story of transformation that's happened as you've done that?
Okay. Yeah, what would be great is, since there are quite a few on this call that have been involved in the ministry, like, well, I'm going to share a little bit. And if maybe two people can think of something that, like Brian shared something at the beginning, but, something that you feel like was key and instrumental to that keeps you going, I would love to hear that. That would be encouraging. But so I'm going to start with a couple things. That one is, I'm going to link what you just asked to what you're asking, and that is artrageous. So to me, that word, it came about when my daughter and we had a little transition that we had within the mission, and had to choose what we were going to do and how we were supposed to move forward. And so we took a long train ride, Amtrak, to California from Texas, and then all the way up California. And on that route, just really asking the Lord, who are we in you? Because who we are in Christ will not change. Where you go changes, who you're around changes, what people believe about you will change, what you even believe about yourself might change. But what will not change is who God created you to be. So in that moment, I needed to get in touch with that. And what I came away from that is, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt who I'm created to be, and then work that into a word, and that word became ARTrageous. So art to me is not pen, paper, dancing, singing. It's not that, what we consider to be the visual or performing arts. To me, the art of humanity. So to me, what art is creativity. We are created in his image to create. So I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm pretty sure every single person I meet is supposed to be doing that to some degree, whether they consider themselves an artist or creative or not. And so that artrageous, the rageous part of it, is the other part that I know that I am. And I embrace and not just tolerate. And that is to creatively exceed the bounds of what's reasonable or expected. And that's one thing that I've come to understand about myself and to embrace, is that I'm going to, by God's design, exceed the bounds of what's reasonable or expected. And I believe that anybody who's worked with me or lived with me has seen that in action, whether they enjoyed it or not. But that's okay. That's God's creation and God's design, and I've embraced that. And so for each one of us, what is it by God's design did he create you to be and to do? And we know that he wants us to apply creativity to that. So whether that's, we talked about, I have a huge passion for health, and, like the medical community, really wanted to be a nurse. My son ended up becoming a PA, and so I live vicariously through him at times. But if we stop with just what we know and what we've been told what is, instead of what could be, we will not be adapting. We will not be inviting God's spirit into that and asking him for the solutions for a lost and thirsty world. So to me, those are values that I think everyone who I've worked with have come away with. Another thing is, and Harmony, I think, is still on here. She just sent me this week a picture of a quote that she saw. And it talked, one thing I love in Romans 15, it talks about, strength is for service, not for status. And that's another thing. If each one of us in our ministry locations, you could replace the word strength with any gift that you have. If it's in the arts, it's the arts. If it's mechanics. What is your strength that maybe your ministry location doesn't even have room for it? Your community does. The world you live in, which is actually your base. Your neighbors, who are actually your staff. And that's I have a dream from Tim Svoda. We could talk about that a little bit later. So when we see the strengths and the giftings that we have as something that we're called to serve, then that's when we serve the spheres of influence, serve our neighbors, rather than, and it will naturally lead, because people want more if you give them something good, right? That's how business models should be. What is a community's need? Do you research your community's need? If they don't need a McDonald's, why would you build another McDonald's? That's simple business, but it's also kingdom mindset. It's where's the darkest, that's where the light needs to go shine. So those are the principles that I've seen be, and I don't know if one or two have an amen to that or anything specific.
Yeah, if there's a couple people where I still have some questions for Marlene, but just to interject here right now, is there anybody that would like
Yeah,
to
I,
share a
I would
couple,
like
couple
I would like to
minutes?
share.
Just
Yeah,
a
I'd like
couple
to share.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the year 2000, 24 years ago, and I'm in the School of Performing Arts, 12 of us students, and Marlene brings the whole team, all of us are together, and Harmony, Jose, you guys are my leaders, you can testify to what I'm saying now. And I was playing the lead in a mime musical called The Circle of Life, and I was getting stuck with all the sequences and all the numbers and all the, the patterns of the movement. And I was like struggling, I was perspiring, and I was not able to get through. And then John and he came forward and he said, "Brian, come aside." And he took me aside and he said, "Brian, is there something in your past that has to do with numbers?" And I said, "Yes. When I was in grade 7 in Chennai, I studied in St. Bede's Mylapore on the beach in Chennai. And one of my teachers, he said, I did very bad in math. And he said, "Brian, your name is," in front of the whole class, "Brian, your name is Brian, but you have no brain." And immediately I froze. I had educational wounding in my soul, and I couldn't get set free from that. And John came to me and he said, "I think that's a stronghold. Let's break it." And then he said, he prayed for me and he broke the stronghold in Jesus' name. I went back, and Jose can say this, that we went all over India performing the Circle of Life, and I played Jesus and I enjoyed it.
That's
And
beautiful.
then I took my my girlfriend and my fiance, my wife. Within a few months, we were married after SOPA. When God tells you, why wait? So we got married. One year after SOPA, we went on a honeymoon to Nepal. We never left Nepal, serving in Nepal. And the beautiful thing is, while we were in Nepal, serving, we felt like, oh, we don't want to go back anywhere, because this is our honeymoon place. 9 children with us. And Tim, you came to Kathmandu, you don't even know it, but you spoke about the A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah.
Okay. And I did not meet you. And I heard it from somebody. And from the year 2000, I've been performing mime called the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I've added one more. So arts for, A for arts, B for business, C for church, D for distribution of media, E for education, F for family, G for government, and H for holiness in science and technology.
Good, Brian.
So, and for me now, after I got delivered of that, sequences, patterns, numbers, money, and management, administration, team development, event management, it's like a piece of cake to me.
Beautiful.
And thank you, Marlene, for coming to Pune, SOPA.
Beautiful. Anybody else have a quick 1 minute interjection here? Anybody else?
I did have a quick question.
Yeah, Jennifer. Yes.
Hi.
Jennifer.
Sorry,
Where are you from, Jennifer?
Yes, I'm from right outside of Dallas, Texas.
All right.
And so my question really quick is, so I'm from, that's what I do, just for fun. But I guess my question is around like just discerning how to use your gift to minister to others when it's not something that you do maybe like as a way of life, or like in a formal ministry role.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Marlene, you want to address that and maybe just talk a little bit about how arts is that, how you use that gift.
Okay, so it broke up in the middle of your question, but what I heard was how to discern using your gift when it's not.
Oh, yeah. So how to discern using your gifts when it's not necessarily something that you do vocationally or in a formal ministry role.
Okay,
Good.
Yeah. I think it's a great question. I think it goes with, a lot of what I was just saying about creativity is bigger than we are. We're given a lane and we're supposed to stay in that lane. But just make sure that the lane that you're staying in is the lane that God said you're only supposed to stay in, and that it isn't other people are saying you're only supposed to stay in that lane. So obviously, as with anything in life, we're wanting to create unity and not discord. So one of the best ways I've found to get involved with something that maybe I'm feeling I have a draw to is I find someone else who's in that, and I go and I can. The concept of what I said, strength is for service, not status. So if maybe that's not your thing, but you feel drawn to it, you might have some giftings, find someone who it is their thing, partner with them. So collaboration is one of the greatest ways. None of us can do everything, but all of us can do something. So find someone who is working in that area. That would be one of my suggestions. I don't know if that rings true to what you were asking.
Yeah, I think you hit it. What do you think, Jennifer?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Good. Marlene, as you continue on that, and then I'm going to open it up for questions here in just a little bit for even more questions. And those of you that are on the call, if you haven't put it in your chat, where you're from, I want to know where you're all from. If you're working with YWAM, put on there. I see Anna Davis on the call from YWAM Santa Rosa, brand new operation in the Bay Area. I see Kristen Potler there from Baltimore. So just put in the chat. We'd love to know. And go ahead and put up your websites or whatever you got. We want people to get to know the different YWAM locations around the world in North America and so forth. So Marlene, what I'm trying to think where to go next with you here, but there's so many things that we could talk about. How do you envision the arts serving in urban missions? And also, I'm going to put together another one there. And what advice would you give, since it's youth with the mission, for young people starting off in a career or in a focus of using arts? How would you begin to advise them of what they need to really become skillful in this area?
That's good. I think the very first thing is identifying artists in our midst. So sometimes, artists, there's a generalization, and I really don't like this concept, but of pride, right? And I always say, well, I've never met anyone. The guy who I hire to come and take care of my yard, he takes pride in what he does. He's going to do a good job. We all should do our best. Do your best always. I remember when I was a little girl and I'd bring home my report card, I would just hand it to my dad, and before he even opened it, he would just look at me and goes, "Did you do your best?" It wasn't about the grade. It was about, did I do my best? And I'd be like, because I know that B really could have been an A. I didn't really try. And I knew that, that B, I actually really did try, so all we know is, did we do our best? Did we engage with those around us in relationships? So the number one thing that we need to do is don't isolate yourself. Don't just build. Yes, work on your art. Absolutely. You can't be your best if you're not working on it, but don't stay isolated. Our whole point in life is to be relational and reach out. So identify artists, find people that are better than you. and come and, like I said, work alongside of them, ask to help be trained by them, find people that need you, and lend a hand to those that falter. So those are the two best ways I think we could break out of our bubbles, whether that's our Christian bubbles, whether it's our missions bubble, whether it's our church bubbles, or maybe it's you work as a mailman. And imagine this, I could picture a movie right now, this mailman who is actually a dancer, choreographer, but is a mailman, and that's how he provides food for his family. But he goes and delivers all this mail to every door. And I don't know if any of you guys are dance teachers, but I get these huge costume books in the mail, catalogs. They just waste so much money because I only order them online anyhow. So these big catalogs, imagine that person always delivering someone else's mail, and it's something that they would love to be involved in, but you don't get to be involved in that. So maybe there's an area in your life where you have a gift, but you don't have the outlet for that gift. Finding a way to serve, either by identifying the artists around you, and not despising the small days, the days of small beginnings in you. I'm going to tell you a story about when that changed in my life. And that was, I was at a conference, and actually the man who wrote Toy Maker and Son, his name is Colin Harbinson, and he was my mentor. But before he became my mentor, I was at a conference where he was speaking, and he said, I feel like I have a word of the Lord for someone here. And that is, do not despise the days of small beginnings. And that hit me like if it was an arrow hitting my heart, but it hit me so hard that I literally turned around because I wanted to see who it was for. And I'm like, the person sitting behind me must be so gifted, because I sensed that was anointed. That was really a word for somebody. I turned around, and instantly in my mind, I saw a treasure chest. And I didn't want to open it because I knew the treasure chest was all the deposits of God in my life. But I knew there wasn't going to be any, because I grew up a dancer. I did modeling. I did theater. But I left all that to come to YWAM. And I left what I really wanted to do was go to nursing school. So here I was, 7 years in YWAM, thinking, I don't have any giftings. I'm a good YWAMer. I do what I'm told, but I don't have giftings. And God showed me that treasure chest, and he asked me to open it. And when I opened it, it was filled with jewels. It's filled with treasures. And as I reached in and I pulled out, God strung it together and started weaving these jewels together. And he would say, that's when you took theater. Remember Mr. Jones, who taught you in theater in junior high? I was like, oh, he was great. He goes, yep, that's one of your jewels. Thread it through. Remember Mrs. Brum? Yeah, Donna Brum, she taught me dance. Oh, I loved her. Yep, that's one of your treasures, dance. Remember modeling? I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? Isn't that like telling people I smoked before I came into missions? I did not see those things as treasures because I wasn't in that lane. And God, at the end of it, he showed me all the different areas of the arts I was involved with. And he asked me if I would wear it for his glory. And so you may not be in the lane you feel like you're like, you might be in the small beginnings. I think we all feel like that. I will admit, I reached out a couple of you guys and asked you to pray for me, because I'm like, oh, I'm having major imposter syndrome here. There's no reason for me to be interviewed for this. Don't despise that. Look for ways that you can identify artists in your community and then identify as an artist, because you are created in his image to co-create with him.
That's great. That's great. This is so rich. So much good stuff that's coming through here. I just really appreciate it. We have about 10 minutes left, and so I want to open it up for questions. And if you just keep your questions to the point, no preaching from the book of Exodus or Leviticus today. Just succinct questions. We'd love to hear from different people. Do you have a question for Marlene? I didn't see any in the chat, but it might be there. Oh, well, here's one here. Marlene, what's your honest opinion about how arts is being used in YWAM and the whole College of Arts? Thank you, Joseph. That's a good question.
Joseph, I thought you were my friend. No, I would have to say my honest opinion about you said the College of the Arts. I really have not worked with them. I think it's been maybe 15 years. I transitioned to city ministries, and I worked with both. I was on the committee for the College of the Arts for U of N, and I was on the North American Cities team, but I transitioned just to the cities team. My personal heart, and I would say the honest part I could say for you, and what I say to anyone that when they come to me is, if you want to do a school in YWAM and you're still at home, go learn that thing at home. Here's what I mean. You want to go to DTS, but you're not living a DTS lifestyle at home? Start living it at home. Go to your DTS, you're going to be that much further along. You want to do, let's say, a School of Performing Arts, which is what, I headed up. So the School of Performing Arts, I headed up that. I founded that school. And that was because I saw so many people coming into YWAM who wanted to do the arts, but had no understanding about how to do it. You got to remember, in the 80s, Amy Grant was boycotted for going secular, singing a secular song. So it's a different day and age we live in now. We have more freedom to be involved in the arts. Our parents understand that and allow their kids to be involved in the arts more. But my honest opinion is, learn what you need to learn wherever you're at. Maybe it's not the best acting conservatory that you want to be at. Well, start there until you're able to go to the next one. Don't get stuck, but don't get stuck by not starting either.
Thank you. Somebody else, another question? I don't see any in the chat, but just unmute yourself if you want to have, just give a question. I see some appreciation in the chat for Marlene and testifying to her, what she's speaking here as being the truth and reality. Anybody have a question?
I was one of the ones that said that I can appreciate what Marlene is saying about the art. Living in an Amish community now, I'm not going to get a lot of Amish kids in here dancing, but I have really learned, and the things that I apply every day, just like she's saying, wherever we are, is to live with excellence and to find creative ways to reach people where they are. And I always think about that, about how art is creativity to, what do I need to say? How can I say this so that the people that need to hear it can hear it without putting up walls to other people? So I'm writing that fine line all the time, where I am in ministry here. A lot of what I do here is underground. People don't know that I'm reaching out. So the arts and the creativity, that the way that Marlene teaches it, touches every sphere and every activity.
Thank you so much. That's really good input, Ruth. Really appreciate it. You can feel Marlene's passion, and she has one of the things I just love what she writes here is how she has a passion to serve the truth and beauty of God on the silver platter of the arts. Isn't it beautiful? The
Tim, can I say something?
Yes, please. Yes.
Hey,
are you coming in from India?
Yeah, that's right.
Great.
Yes. You know me, right?
Of course.
Okay. Hey, Marlene, one of the reason why I asked that question is because I know I have trained under you back in 1998. And what I learned more than the arts is the heart that you carry. And you are a true artist. You are a prophetic artist. And you really, I didn't find you like a person who is performing, just for others, but you were just performing in the presence of God. And you gave everything to the Lord, and you never pleased anything else other than Jesus and what he says. And I felt, and I think that I am one of your disciples, and I have done crazy, amazing things in India, with the arts inspired by you and all the school that I did. And in fact, I do have to say I miss those days, because, sometimes this deceiving fact about leadership actually kind of leave your call. I'm actually guilty of that, but I hope to come back to that. But I am sure, I'm saying this. I think YWAM is really missing this prophetic arts and a person who sees arts as not just a media to use, but it's actually the heart pulse of God. And that I haven't seen many artists in the world who carry that forward. And in fact, even that's why I asked that question that, actually YWAM is missing you, who you are, and the input that you could offer in the College of the Arts. Unfortunately, not too many people are recognizing this. And I don't care who listens to this right now. You know what I mean? And it's very unfortunate that we are missing your talent into an international platform.
Thank you, Jose. That's I know that's really brought some encouragement to Marlene. Jose is one of our senior leaders in India. Of course, I knew him when he was much younger. And me also. Still in Lonavala. Thank you, Jose. One of our major campuses in the world in Lonavala, Maharashtra, India. Just near to Mumbai, Pune.
Can I say
Marlene, any
something?
response to that? Yes,
Oh,
please.
well, I just wanted to contribute something that I think Marlene does very well that I don't know if other artists do, or but I feel like part of the call is really seeing giftings in other people and calling them out. Because it's one thing to be like a solo artist and be really good at what you do, but I think if we're going to be missionary artists, it's seeing the giftings in others, calling it forth, helping them to grow into it. And I know personally, I feel like words that she spoke over me and encouragement made me better than I was, like having somebody believe in you and say, no, you can do this. Okay, I will do that. And all of a sudden you figure out how to do it. And I think that's an important element when we're talking about being an impact and an influence. It's really turning the spotlight on who you can uplift and help to come into their giftings. So
thank you so much. I'm going to wrap this up. We just have 2 minutes left, and I do have a commitment to keep these calls to 45 minutes. Marlene, would you like to say any parting words to us?
I just thank you for taking your time and joining, and I hope that each one of us are inspired to strength is for service, not for status, to do as Tim read out. One of the visionary things is just to serve the truth and beauty of God on the silver platter of the arts, whether that's cooking a meal for your neighbor and it's a culinary feast, painting a picture, mowing the lawn, whatever it is, that we could do it all to the glory of God, and that we are created in his image to co-create with him. Don't narrow yourself down based on your title, that your title is the daughter, the son of God. Your daughter is created in his image. Go and do likewise.
Thank you, Marlene. And I'm going to end this call. Yes, this call has been recorded. It will be up on my YouTube channel, Tim Swoboda. Just go to the playlist, Spotlight on YWAM Cities and YWAM City Ministries. And
Hey, Tim,
you get the recording. Yeah.
I wasn't able to look at the feed, any of the questions or comments. Will I be able to see that later?
I'll send it over to you, Marlene.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for coming, and
Thanks,
I'll do another one in 45 days or 60 days, and I'm hoping maybe to do something about YWAM in Europe. God bless you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.